Before I ever stood on a stage fighting to make people laugh, I used to fight for my life locked inside of a steel cage. That's right, before stand-up comedy, I was an MMA fighter. Honestly, I'm not even sure I would have became a comedian had I not spent years grinding as a mixed martial artist. So people, they find fulfillment and enjoyment in their lives in their own particular ways, but for me, I knew I would never be satisfied just working a regular 9-to-5 job. But what I did know was, I was athletic, I was tough, and I was willing to work as hard as I needed to be successful. I've been a fan of MMA for a very long time. The first fight I ever watched was in 2004. It was Quentin Rampage Jackson versus Ricardo Arona back in Pride. And if you recall, that's when Rampage KO'd Arona with a slam. Amazing. Now nobody knows this. Not my parents, none of my family, not my old coaches, but my first fight came 5 years later. I was a senior in high school. I was still going to class. One day I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get in my car and drive across state lines. I went to a bar, signed up on a list. There were no athletic commissions. There wasn't a doctor. Hell, there weren't even weight classes. I didn't even train for this. This was just two people saying, you know what, let's get in this cage and let's fight. I won that fight and I thought, man, this would be a very exciting way to make a living. But I knew if I was gonna be successful, I had to find a gym. I had to train. Now this is 2009, and MMA gyms, they're popping up all over the country, so I found my new home. So much that my coach, he actually gave me a key to the gym. I would train, sleep on the mats, wake up and train again. I was dedicated. This was my new life. Now MMA pay is terrible nowadays. Back then, even worse. So one way we would make extra money is we would train regular people. And one day I was training this guy in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and he goes, hey, I'm a stand-up comedian. And I go, no way. You see, I was obsessed with stand-up comedy. So much that there were times that my mother used to let me skip school to stay home and watch Comedy Central because they were running a stand-up marathon that day. Yeah, I love stand-up comedy, but I looked at this guy and I go, how? How are you a stand-up comedian in Springfield, Illinois? Don't you have to be in LA? Don't you have to be in New York? There's no entertainment industry here. And he looks at me and he goes, just come to a show with me this week. Now, he had presented it to me like he was some type of professional comic. Turns out he was a new guy and he took me to an open mic. I'm sitting there watching this open mic going, I can do this. I could probably do better than these guys. So once the show was over, I said, hey man, how do I do it? How do I become a comic? He said, go home, write 5 minutes worth of jokes, show up next week and sign up. And I did. And I had the best set of the night. And that was the day my life changed forever. It was 2012, July, at a place called the Tin Can Pub in Springfield, Illinois. I had a fight later that year, November. But I knew that was it. That was the last fight I was going to have. That was my retirement match. And it was in an awesome venue, the Prairie Capital Convention Center, held by an awesome promotion, Capital City Cage Wars. Numerous UFC fighters have fought for Capital City Cage Wars. And I'm there and I'm fighting my cousin. Crazy, right? Our family showed up to watch cousins fight. I broke his arm with an arm bar and our families cheered. Royce Gracie, the Royce Gracie was at that fight. After I had won, I went back to the locker room and Royce is in the locker room looking for me. He came up to me and he gave me a lot of very kind, very nice words. And then he shook my hand and said, thank you for representing my family's art in such an amazing way. That's one of the proudest moments of my life to this day. But I knew that my time in MMA was done. I was now a stand-up comedian. I don't talk about fighting a lot in my comedy because it's weird to me, right? I was very good. I'm actually undefeated as a fighter, and that's not to be boisterous or narcissistic, but it's not cool to be the tough guy on stage, right? To me, the best comedy comes from vulnerability. It comes from telling secrets, which is something I heard from Pete Holmes and Mike Birbiglia. So it's not cool for me to be the toughest guy, but one thing I often would do is donate my time to children and teach them self-defense and martial arts. So here's a bit about me teaching autistic kids Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
The funniest part about being an MMA fighter is you don't make any money, right? Like, you're broke, so you gotta find other ways to make money, right? I used to teach autistic kids Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, don't do that. Not everybody needs to know self-defense. I'll be honest with you. Plus, if somebody's picking on an autistic kid, that's the devil. You can't choke the devil, okay? You can't choke the... Satan is not going to succumb to your leg lock, okay? That's what I'm saying. And also, like, it was weird because I always would donate my time, really, to autistic kids. I try to make the community better. But you would tell these guys, you'd be like, hey, if you put somebody in a rear naked choke, they have exactly 8.9 seconds before they're out cold. And then you would hear these nonverbal children start counting out loud. 6, 7, 8. It's like, get the hell off him. Go put your headphones back on, brother. Stay off the mats.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I'm a stand-up comedian who believes the best comedy comes from real life. So if you want to see more of the behind-the-scenes stories to the stories I tell on stage, hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.